Good morning, everyone, and welcome again to Alpha Morgan Capital Quarterly Wealth and Economic Review webinar with Bismarck Rewane. My name is Doyin Anyehe. I'm an executive director with Alpha Morgan Capital with responsibility for our global wealth business, and I'm glad I'll be your moderator for today. Well, it's the 10th edition in this series. We've come a mighty long way. It's the first webinar we'll be having since the new administration was inaugurated. And I must say, it's been interesting. We've seen the introduction of a number of policies in Nigeria, the removal of fuel subsidies, the revival of the investors and exporters window, promoting freer naira trade, and several others. Inflation has continued to rise. There has been devaluation of the naira, and every single Nigerian has felt their immediate impact in the cost of living. And might I say, it hasn't been pretty. While the experts say they are pro-market policies, well, however they have impacted you, we have with us today, as usual, our seasoned speaker, Mr. Bismarck Rewane, who will help us make sense of it all, and maybe help us understand how the pro-market policies will ultimately benefit Nigerians and influence the investing public. For those who don't already know, Bismarck Rewane is the Managing Director and Chief Executive of Financial Derivatives Company Limited, a company that offers quantitative and qualitative research to provide insight for investment decisions in sub-Saharan Africa, and especially in Nigeria. He has more than 30 years' experience as an economist, banker, and financial analyst. He's a chartered member of the Institute of Bankers of England and Wales and is a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Bankers. Welcome, sir, and thank you for being here. It's always a delight to have you. Our host for today is the Group Managing Director of Alpha Morgan Capital Managers Limited, Ade Buraimo. Ade is a banker with over 20 years of commercial and investment banking experience. He was the managing director of GT Bank Limited, Sierra Leone in 2010. Prior to that, he was the managing director of GT Homes, the then mortgage subsidiary of GT Bank. He's a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Bankers, an associate of the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investments UK, an associate of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, and a non-executive member of the Fund Managers Association of Nigeria, where he serves as Chairman, Ethics, Standards, and Regulations. Welcome, Ade. We also have with us today George Imade, the Managing Director of Alpha Morgan Capital Advisory Partners, our investment banking subsidiary. You're welcome, George. As always, we have a 1-hour session today, during which Bismarck will speak to us over the course of 40 minutes, and I encourage our participants to kindly type questions in the Q&A box. The questions will be answered after Bismarck's presentation. After the Q&A session, George will give the closing remarks, and then we will close. The next voice you would hear is that of our host, Ade Buraimo. I welcome you all once again, and thank you. Ade?
Yeah. Doyin, thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon and good evening, wherever you may be connecting everywhere in the world. My name is Ade Buraimo, and I happen to be the Group Managing Director of Alpha Morgan. I want to welcome everyone once again to the 10th edition of Alpha Morgan Wealth and Economic Review with Bismarck Rewane.
Recording in progress.
This is our first edition in this new regime of President Tinubu Ahmed, and in our new dispensation. Between the last edition and today, a lot has happened. I want to thank you for joining us to come and listen to the way forward. We had a new president sworn in, new NSA, new service chiefs, new IGP, acting central bank governor was appointed, the currency was floated, oil and gas companies allowed to sell dollars to the banks, reduction of CRR specifically for the merchant bank was announced, creating more liquidity. Appointment of a former partner at PwC, Mr. Oloyede, as the chairman of the Presidential Tax Reform. The 10th National Assembly was inaugurated too with new president. We had the removal of oil subsidy and all the associated issues. Removal of the EFCC chairman and appointment of an acting one. Lastly, yesterday, the increase, marginal increase in the MPR to 18%. Like I said in the last webinar, it is a new beginning. It is a new dawn. For us, it might be tough initially, but we believe and we can see a better and a brighter future, a better tomorrow, a better Nigeria. And we are well positioned for it as an institution. As I conclude and we welcome our speaker, I want to welcome all of us once again. And I want us to have faith in the new government, have faith in the God we all serve, and believe that the economy is in the hand of people that will surely sail us to a good position. And as private individuals, government, companies, contribute our little to the successes of the new regime. I want to thank Mr. Bismarck Rewane, our speaker, for always finding time in spite of his busy, very tight schedule, bordering on companies, national and international engagements, to honor regularly our invitation. Thank you so much, sir. I'm aware he was at the MPC yesterday. He must have flown back to Lagos for this purpose today. Thank you. He's with us today. And tomorrow, the regulator, our regulator, SEC, I am aware that he will be speaking there again. Bismarck, thank you for everything. Thank you for your contribution to the nation, and thank you for the support of our industry and our market. I thank you so much. Once again, I welcome all of you. And the floor, I'm sure our boss is ready now, and the floor is open.
We're ready.
Mr. Bismarck, thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you so much. We are very proud.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Ade Ibrahim. We need to be allowed to share our screen so we can. So can the host allow us to share the screen? Okay, good morning. Sorry, this is documents. And can you allow us to share our screen so that we can upload our document?
Sure. Let me see. Oh, hold on. Okay.
Yeah, we are good.
You're good, sir. All right. Thank you, sir.
Right. Again, let me say, as we say in Nigeria, stand on existing protocols. And like the group MD said, so much has happened between the last meeting and this meeting. Two, I think he combined policy changes with personnel changes. They are two different things. Personnel changes affect people and their positions. Policy changes affect so many other things. So I would try to start off by saying that very quickly we would address some issues, key policy pronouncements, short-term impact, the perception of the way markets perceive them, short run, long run. We'll look at some risks and then we'll see what the outlook is. Well, firstly, my perspective and my personal perspective is that Nigeria has been, from the policy-making community has been dominated mainly by accountants. And accountants are it's a very good training, very good discipline, and they keep their records perfectly well. They look out for revenue, they look out for expenditure, they look out for budgets, they look out for margins, and they look, at the end of the day, they advise you on whether it's a true and fair picture of things. Economists, on the other hand, understand accounting, but from a very narrow perspective. Economists look at growth and look at development, knowing very well that in a fast-growing, well-developed economy, the companies will do well, the people will live well, and the policymakers and the politicians will probably get re-elected or achieve their goals. So there's a bigger view than the books. I think that's, if you look at the policymaking community, this slide tells the difference between an accountant and an economist. But let us take the national budget for the year as an example. National budget has 5 questions. 1, how much am I going to earn? 2, how much am I going to spend? Is there a difference between what I'm going to spend and what I'm going to earn, which is a deficit, surplus, or a balanced budget? Then, how am I going to fund that deficit? Or how am I going to deploy that surplus? Then finally, the most important question, the budget as a tool of economic management. So the first 4 questions are answered mainly by people with an accounting background. And the 5th question is answered mainly by an economist who will say, after all of these things have been done, even if there's a deficit budget, surplus budget, how am I going to use it as a tool for economic management? What's going to happen to unemployment at the end of the year? What's going to happen to inflation at the end of the year? What's going to happen to growth? What's going to happen to national savings? What's going to happen to my international trade position? What's going to happen to how do I fund my loans? So, and are the people going to be better off at the end of this year than they started the year? That 5th question is what now. But the reality is that as we go into this session, this is just the people. Both of them are accountants, right? Both the Minister of Finance and the Central Bank Governor at that time over the past years. And it's been that way all along. I mean, in some cases, we had somebody like Paul Oguma, who was Governor of the Central Bank, also an accountant, Ola Vincent. So I think the first time we had economists coming here, there was Charles Oludo and Sanusi Lamido. But that doesn't, there are loads and loads of economists within the central bank. So it's not an excuse not to, like the chairman of the Federal Reserve is a lawyer, and he's done a pretty good job. Okay, so let me also go back to the announcements, which Ade Brahma helped us to really outline. Key policy pronouncements where subsidy is gone is one announcement. The other announcement that from an economist point of view, subsidies are going. Gone and going are two, going in an auction, right? So going, right? And so let's assume going means gone, right? We also talked about unified exchange rates. Again, that's another. Convergence is a precondition for unification. You converge as on your path to unification. You virtually would have converged if you have multiple exchange rates. So we had that announcement. A, subsidy. 2, exchange rate unification. 3, we need lower interest rates. 4, that people can take their money out when they want it. 5, the anti-tax, anti-investment policies will be removed. Then all the other things about security, so on and so forth. So, but these are all nice announcements. But between when you make an announcement and when you implement that announcement into a policy, monitoring that policy, then the impact. These are various stages along the way. And along the line, there's some pain associated with these things. And eventually there's some gain. So the diagnosis is very clear. And everybody knows what the problem in Nigeria. Even a child born today will know that it's a tough country. The therapy is after they've done the diagnosis, and diagnosis is not complete without blood tests and all the other things. So they know what that is. Now it's the time for the therapy. Are we going to go for very aggressive therapy, or are we going to just go for a mild? So they may say, okay, take some tablets. Some will say, no, this malaria is too far gone. Give the person an injection. Oh, no. We need to put the person on drip. So all of these are the things, but all trying to treat the same ailment. So the ailment is clear. The diagnosis has shown us that the ailment is clear. The diagnosis has shown us that we need therapy. Some people are saying, let's do it aggressively. Some are saying, let's do it mildly, because an aggressive treatment means that you're going to be grounded. And when you're grounded, you're not working, you're not eating, and all that. So other things could come up. So that's the pain we are seeing today. And people are mistaking the symptoms of the pain as an ailment in itself. The ailment is still there. The pain comes with, it's like you take Nevaquin and you are reacting to it, allergy, and scratching yourself all over it. That's not an ailment in itself. It's something that comes with the territory. So I want us to understand that simple. But before I go to the next slide, I want us to understand that the clients and everybody here on this call are investors. And these investors have options. The moment you open your market up, the moment you go for all of these reforms, this is where it must be understood. The moment you go for these reforms, the investor is no longer a Nigerian investor. There's no difference between a Nigerian investor and an international investor. I hate the word foreign investors. There's not like foreign investors, are international investors or domestic investors in the market. 2, because the man has an option of investing anywhere, he's carrying out a comparative analysis of every investment option, right, with others, both domestically and internationally. So money becomes fungible. Whenever you give him 1 naira, he looks at it, what is the value of 1 naira in other markets and what return will I get? So once you have a market determined mixed economy, capital flight could be inwards and capital flight could be outwards, depending on how efficient your markets are. So everybody on this call, any one of them that has a house in Asokoro or Lekki or Koyi or Yaba is looking at the value of that house and saying that, and the rent is getting on that house if it's a landlord, if it's an owner occupier, looking at it. Therefore, should I sell that house, buy dollars and invest in a property in Europe? Or should I sell it and buy gold? Should I sell it and buy Bitcoin? Should I sell it and buy equities? Or should I just sell it into dollars and keep it under my pillow? Those are the things that's going through their minds. Because before, if you did that, it would be called a crime, economic sabotage. So I want us to get that clear. So on this call today, we have people who are looking at their bank balances and asking themselves, should I be in Naira? Should I be in a convertible reserve currency? And if I'm going to invest outside Nigeria, what should I do? What should I invest in? Some are saying just by staying in Naira and inflation going at the rate at which it's going, I'm getting poorer every minute. When I go to work in the morning, worth this in dollar terms. By the time I close, I'm worth less. So what should I do? So, well, some things have happened. Some policy pronouncements have been made. Some have been extended into things. So fuel subsidy removal, I try to call it fuel subsidy reduction. So it's a long debate, but all we know is that I think before I go into all of this, let me start by saying we've said it here that subsidies are reverse taxes. So I want you to understand the word. Anytime you talk about subsidy, please just forget about subsidy. Just say there's been an increase in tax. And what is the implication of an increase in tax? Usually when the economy is slow or in difficulty, the antidote you give is to reduce taxes so that to encourage investment. So if your economy is slowing and you increase taxes, there must be a reason why you're doing that. So I want us to understand that first, all of these things, all of these policy pronouncements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that you can see here now, fuel subsidy removal reduction is an increase in tax. Exchange rate unification is an increase in tax. Because what is happening, the government is selling you dollars and you're paying more for it, so they're taxing you. Electricity tariff subsidy, when it removes, you have increased your tax. 7.5 VAT on diesel and all those things. I don't know what, there's something about electronic payment, data. Yeah, so now that, so it's that. So essentially, and what does an increase in tax mean to the economy? That's the discussion we're having today. So with an increase in tax, increases government revenue. Fantastic. It reduces the fiscal deficit because if the government gets more money, it doesn't have to borrow, right? Because it reduces the fiscal deficit. And since the fiscal deficit, part of it is funded by ways and means, it reduces the cost of governance. Right? Okay. What does an increase in tax mean for growth? Short run, it actually reduces growth, or it reduces investment. What does it do to the cost of doing business for a private company? The argument is that tax is on income. Therefore, if you don't make profit, they don't, but it doesn't work that way. The taxes that we are seeing are what we call the benefit approach tax. They're indirect taxes. There are two types of taxes, direct and indirect. Then we have the benefit approach and we have the ability to pay approach. So this has nothing to do with ability to pay. Whether you are Dangote or you are Franca, you will pay the same tax on petrol. Okay, so that's the economics of these subsidies, increase in taxes and the impact. So it may not increase the cost because some people say when you do this, it increases the cost and the cost is transferred to the consumer. It may not increase the cost because you have already produced and it's what you are selling, right? So when you go and pay VAT, the pack and shop doesn't care whether after finishing your bill, they just put 0.75 and all that, and that's your total bill. What it does, it reduces your income and increases the price at which you pay, but it does not increase the cost of producing those goods. but it's more or less an indirect cost. I want us to understand it, but it's a very, very nuanced point. So from an economic impact, you find that all of these things are accountant-driven. Increase revenue, increase tax, increase government revenue, reduce the fiscal deficit, so on. But the overall economic impact is that anything that reduces the income of people, right, reduces their purchasing power. Anything that reduces their purchasing power eventually reduces the total demand for their goods, right? So that's number one. But next, in all of this policies implemented, the next thing President Tinubu said was that we are reducing interest rates. And some people hailed it, but that's where the problems comes. So interest rates will reduce national savings, and the data I was given yesterday said that national savings the prior year was 30% of GDP. It has dropped to 27%. People on this call, asset managers, people who are clients of asset management firms, as well as, so if national savings drops, then investment drops. If investments drop, then growth is affected negatively. So that's why I spent a few minutes trying to explain this difference between an accountant and an economist, and an economist perspective, right? Who wants growth because it is GDP divided by the number of people that gives you income per capita. The accountant says, as long as my books are balanced, fine. For your terms of Israel. Okay? So I've done enough justice to fuel subsidy removal, but I want us not to deceive ourselves, right? That fuel subsidy removal only happens after there's no longer incentive to smuggle across the border. So as long as the price differential between the border, the country next door, and ourselves is wide enough, then can smuggle. But when I say the country next door, I don't want us to mistake ourselves. Some of us live in Lagos, and the only time we know when we travel abroad is when we board a plane and travel, and go to Benin or go to Sapele or go to Maiduguri. If you live along the border, like Gabaru, there's a place called Gabaru. I've been there before many years ago when I was student, right? In the house of my host when I was in Gabaru in Borno State that time, his living room and kitchen and dining room were in Cameroon. His bedroom and his bathroom and others were in Nigeria. So every time he goes to have his breakfast, he goes into Cameroon. And when he goes to sleep, he sleeps in Nigeria. That is how I want you to understand that. So neighboring countries. So if he and the interesting thing was that he had some doors. You can go from his parlor out, and you can go from his bedroom out. So if there's a problem in Nigeria, he will just enter his parlor and go out the other way. And if there's, so that is how it is. And we have thousands of kilometers of border around us, bordered by 5 countries: Chad, Benin, Niger, Cameroon. I think 4. Those are the 4 countries that we have common borders with. And in Lake Chad, it goes around some part of, that's. But I'm putting this point of view, so it's not as difficult. Well, what you call smuggling, what you define as smuggling, carrying things across this country, is not smuggling in that area. But all the houses are split on 2. So if I take anything across, it is not considered smuggling, just considered trading. Because I remember also that time that there were different market days. So the market day in the village, which is in Cameroon, nobody restricts you. Everybody carries the things, sell there and come back, right? So then the market day here in Nigeria, people come across, and there's nothing like, what I noticed also that they spoke Hausa, and French, right? Okay, and English. And I remember when I was in banking, I had a client who was one of the largest sugar merchants in Nigeria. And Bolori was his name, I remember. And my MD was from Borno, now Yobe, right? So whenever this guy came to Lagos, well, Victoria Island here, and he came in for meetings, I used to have a problem because he spoke Kanuri language and he spoke French. I didn't speak Kanuri, nor did I speak French, right? So the guy comes in. So I had a colleague who the MD calls him, but the MD will not be at the meeting. So we had a translator, but both of us are Nigerians. So the guy is speaking Kanuri to him, and that guy is speaking English to him. And then whenever I say, then the guy has to speak French. But so I'm just trying to tell you that, and he was the largest sugar guy before all of this things happened. And we did business efficiently and profitable both to the bank and to the customer. I'm just trying to tell you how traditionally happened. What I'm saying is that if petrol in Nigeria is 617 naira and petrol in Cameroon is 950 naira, there is enough incentive to move it out. And that will remain, and you cannot stop that. I'm told my chairman has all of the staff in his house are from Cotonou. And so I find out from these people how Cotonou works. There are three prices of petrol in Cotonou. There's official price of petrol, which comes in and people pay their taxes. There's what they call the Nigerian price, right, which you buy. And then there's Nigerian smuggled price where you go and buy it close to the Nigerian border and bring yourself. That's how it is. But I understand since this thing had happened, the prices of all these three refined products in Benin have actually become, they're more or less unified, but not yet. There's still some room. So much so that if you have your SIM card and use it in Benin Republic because of MTN, all sorts of all sorts of schemes, I would call it. People are taking money, using their SIM card in Nigeria, making calls, their ATMs. So the border region in Nigeria is extremely different. It's a different part of the country than the transactions you do in Lagos. Once you go near Seme and all that, and when you cross over, it's another thing. So the subsidy removal, exchange rate, everything is tied together. So these guys do their costing every minute. If I call the Malams today, I haven't called them this morning. I think it was yesterday, they closed at 870. I don't know what it is this morning since the announcement of the MPC. And as far as you know what happened yesterday, Ade Ibrahim talked about the fact that the MPR was increased moderately. No, but it's not just that. The reality is that it was deliberately done. The timing of it was done so that the market had closed. Normally, because we had so many calls as to when is this thing going to start. As a matter of fact, I went to CNBC twice, right? Before we now said, right? And the questions were short and to the point. And why was that? The whole idea was the market reaction to it had to be minimized. Typically, 9 times out of 10, except the day they open the Dangote refinery, the meetings start at 1:30. No, we are seated by 1:30. We give our projections at 1:45, and then the governor comes in and speaks. Then the governor takes questions after 45 minutes, and question and answer goes on by 3 o'clock, 3:30. So the decisions would have been announced. The market closes at 2:30. I think closing bell is at 2:30. So between 2 o'clock and 2:30, whatever the governor has announced goes into the markets. And that happened. So what did we do yesterday? So first of all, it was supposed to be 4. No, first of all, it was going to be 2. Then it had to be 4. Then it became 4:15. And then we closed out at about 5 o'clock. So markets closed. So that's why I don't know. I haven't followed up to see. So it achieved its desired objective. If you wanted to buy money or sell money or buy any equities. So the stock market gained yesterday, if I'm right, by about almost 1%. So what happens today will determine a number of things. We made some very interesting announcements. Those announcements, we'll come back to that in a minute. So exchange rate unification, these are all the things, subsidies in the context of national taxes, revenue generating, easy to administer equity and all of that. So those are, but this is where I was talking about. In Benin Republic, it's 87.85, right? Minimum wage, I'm saying. Now, one thing is the country, and the other one is the price. So you have wages and price, and I don't want to go into that debate, but the whole idea is that what I wanted you to know is that incomes are being squeezed. People are changing their behavioral patterns, and this is affecting assets of the companies that buy and sell and produce in Nigeria. The other thing is that please remember that there's a time between when your income reduces and when you change your consumption. There's also a time between when policies are made and when it's transmitted to the market. So what happened? What has happened so far? For the petrol price and the exchange rate and some of the reduction in taxes, reduction in price, in subsidies, the government of Nigeria has taken money from you and put it back into, taking it away and have not put it back. As a matter of fact, one of the announcements yesterday, or one of the commentators said that money has been, that they've saved money by taking the money 1 trillion. As a matter of fact, that is exactly what you don't need. You need to recycle that money back into the system as fast as possible. So basically, for the month of June alone, where we collect from what the Nigerian government used to get was about 650 billion. For the month of June alone, we got 1.9 trillion, of which 920 billion has been shared and 1 trillion has been kept. Okay? So please know that that money has to come back. That's what we call stranded money. And that's why you see fewer cars on the road, fewer people entering into shops, fewer people going to the market. And when I say fewer people, that means less money is going to the market at this time. So economic activity is slowing down. Now, let's look at the exchange rate. I think that's a very, very important element of this discussion today. On the 1st of June, if you look on the left of this chart, the difference between the official and the parallel market was as much as 300 and something naira. Because one was 460 and the other one was 790. That is what we saw. Now, the market structure was the same. Central bank selling, no Aboki FX, no, the madams were hiding to sell and buy. The accounts were being frozen left, right, and center. To get money out of your DOM account that time, you need to show your tax identification number. You have to do this, you have to do that. All right. So, come June 8th, June 15th, you can see both rates merged. As a matter of fact, between 8th of June and 22nd of June, you see that the parallel market, the official market was higher than the parallel market. The official market was 822 and the parallel market was 815. So it was profitable for you to take money, to go and buy money in the parallel market and sell to the government. Then they they merged from 15th of June to the 29th of June. Then come early July, foreign market went high because there was no supply, all the way to the 13th of July. So now they are closed. In other words, there was convergence, unification, divergence, and there's now further divergence. Because right now, if I'm right, it's about 870. It was 870 yesterday. I don't know what it is this morning. It's probably about 875. But our projections show that it could get up to 910 before coming back. And we'll come back in a vengeance when interest rates increase to about 820. So, why is the Naira depreciating? People don't trust the government, people don't believe, and it takes time for confidence to build. Interest rates in Nigeria are very low compared to the rate of inflation. You can't have inflation at about 23% and government treasury bills at 3 to 5%. Okay? Then there's no supply because oil is being stolen. So we expect the creditors, luckily the creditors are mainly the IMF, the World Bank, all of these people are mainly economists. So they would insist on doing things the right way, the policies. Because we're not reinventing the wheel. There's nothing that's happening now to us that never happened before. And there's nothing happening now that has not happened to other countries. So we have to be very clear. So our creditors are going to have a major say on what happens next to us. And when are we meeting with our creditors? For your information, we paid off $500 million on the 15th of July. Our next big prepayment is in January or so next year. So those of you who watched the central bank acting governor yesterday, was very measured, very professional, very guided in his comments. Unfortunately, we had two events yesterday. One was the fracas between the DSS and the prison officials about the substantive governor. And then we had the discussion of the acting governor. So all of that happening on the same news item. I was on channel yesterday. So you had to deal with the news of the fracas, deal with the news of the MPC, and deal with the markets. But that's, as I say, that's life. Okay. So what are the next? I think we're going to see less unorthodox intervention. The acting governor made a comment yesterday, which I think was very, very important. I don't know how many of you picked it. He said that we're actually thinking of changing the name from I&E window to a full market, because everything and anything is being sold or bought in that market. I think that was a very, very important statement, extremely important. I say this because when you're an economist, when you say that a market, there is no longer a market, so it's like saying that there will no, in Lagos, maybe, I don't know what they have environmental, where they say there'll be no market, Thursday, right? Okay, so if you now announce tomorrow that there'll be no more environmental and every day is a market day, it changes everything, right? Changes everything because everybody, staff, we can't come to the house now because I have to go and buy the thing and there's environmental, we'll buy it at 11 o'clock, then we'll, all those things change automatically. But by saying that, he's alluding to the fact that it's no longer a price discriminating monopoly. It's no longer, there are no restrictions. Okay. It is a total market. And he used the word efficient and effective market so that you get a price. And he expects the price to move in every direction. Coming from the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, a country that has said that, you are not allowed to trade in certain currencies and all of that. And considering the fact that some months ago, in that same forum, somebody was being asked, the person who set up Aboki FX was invited to a wrestling bout. right? So, and now saying, look, please, the market is open. It's a big world of difference between the words and the action. So I want us, everybody in this call, to realize that that was a very important statement, that the Central Bank of Nigeria is saying that it's an efficient market. As a matter of fact, we are going to discontinue, if we can, the name INE is going to be, it's going to be a forex market in the true sense of it. Very, very important. So, one, forex market. Two, you cannot have one-sided markets. You know? Therefore, once you have a forex market, you must have an efficient Naira market. And an efficient Naira market means the interest rates must move in tandem with the other one. Right? Three, that this intervention, all this anchor borrow and all these things, we are going to be hearing less and less of it. That was very interesting because yesterday's statement, normally we spend at least almost 10 or 15 minutes of listing how many people got money for intervention, how many people took money to go and feed the chickens and all that. So, but we didn't hear any of that this time. We heard this. So, again, very interesting day yesterday, July 25th. Very interesting day for those of you who follow the news. Comments were clear. We had the substantive governor having a discussion with having a chat with the DSS and then the acting governor making policy statements. All of that happened at the same time. So it's interesting, very interesting developments. So as far as this slide is concerned, data integrity, we are likely to see a clearer picture. Debt rescheduling and new monies will come. That's important because our creditors are mainly economists who will insist about one, growing economy, two, equitable distribution of income, and three, dealing with employment and unemployment issues. On the money market side, we need interest rates structure, we need exchange rate determining mechanism, so on. So that's a very important slide as well. Now, policy changes are not the same thing as institutional reform. If you carry out policy changes and you don't reform the institutions, it won't take long before the old people will get married to the natives and do the same thing. So you could see yesterday, fortunately, when I saw the prison people fighting with the DSS, so what exactly is this battle about? Right? I couldn't understand it, but it just told you that institutional anarchy, right, just took place. If I was an international investor trying to take a position in Nigeria, and I see that kind of, and they had balaclavas, this covering their faces, quite interesting. I thought I was watching a movie, but so Mexico or Panama or something like that. So now all those institutions need to be reformed. There's no way on earth, right, where the judicial system make a pronouncement. Every law enforcement agent in this country must obey the law. They are not too long, right? So that was quite disturbing, right? So if, for example, and I take it back to what happened on Gerard Road when the building collapsed, there was an institution that said you cannot go more than so many floors, right? There was somebody who said I had contacts and decided to go to certain floors. From the story we heard, police came to enforce that, to tell them not to go further and be higher than him. And then some other section of Nigerian police came and arrested the police that went there. The long and short of it, 6 months later, both the owner of the property and the people that were all perished, right? So there's need for institutional reform. Reform of the institution is important. If not, nobody is safe. I think that's one message. It's clear. So Adebraham said we should all put our hands together to work for the success of the Nigerian administration. I agree entirely. But one way to do it is to ensure that institutional reform, so that at least there's law and order. Okay. I think and law and order means tax reform. You said Mr. Yedele, a great guy, living Price Waterhouse too. I know him very well, and he's man who's very focused. He do a great job institutional reforming the tax collecting institutions. So I think we are going to see a lot of this kind of people and this kind of policies with clear thinking, who are fearless, do what they have to do. Okay, so please let's not get carried away. There are no magic bullets. The day we remove subsidy, people thought Nigeria would no. That's just the beginning of the process. It takes time before we recycle the money, there are so many things that happen. So people have to be patient. Just wait a little bit. The best is yet to come. There's always a silver line at the back of every cloud. These are growth projections. Not bad. The IMF reinstated our growth projection yesterday, I think at 3.2, okay, for 2023. Okay. Now, the IMF to reinstate that growth rate, that's very good. But please, I want you to know that 7 or 8 French-speaking African countries, more than that, and the projections now are that those countries will grow by 7%. So we have 4 neighbors, all French-speaking. The average rate of growth in those countries, right, across French-speaking and South Africa, is 7%. Our own growth rate, we can clap for that, is 3.2%. Technically speaking, it should mean that if one country's neighbors are growing at 7% and you are growing at 3%, people should be running away from your country to the other place where they're going. But I think I see the reverse, right? Which means that either the 3.2% captures only your official growth rate and doesn't capture the real growth rate, because people are economic agents, they don't carry their textbook and say, okay, this country is going at 7%, let me run there. Because first of all, they probably cannot read anything. But they feel it. Prosperity can be felt, right? So every day, every market day here, more people are coming from that place to come. So when we now reduce or increase the price of petrol, it affected them. When we closed our border, it affected all those people, right? And if that was the case, almost everybody, people would be migrating, right? But I see more people coming from those countries around here. So I think short run, my view, if the reforms hold and stay the way, and we do the right things, our growth rate is going to exceed those growth rates. Not in 2023, not in 2024, but it builds up to that. So we should be a much stronger economy as we go along. Inflation outlook, what goes up will come down, and I think to come down, I think some of those prices, inflation rates, once you start increasing your interest rates accordingly and moving it, then you will see a difference. Let me day before yesterday, the Ghana Central Bank met, and I think they moved their rate by 50 basis points, I think, to 30% per annum. Inflation rate in Ghana is 42 or 40. No, it went all the way to 48, but it's about 42% now. Treasury rates in Ghana and all those, that's just the policy rate that is 30, right? Treasury rates and others are nearly higher. Nigerian banks are doing very well in Ghana, right? Now, and I think Abraham used to be in Ghana. So the Ghanaian economy moves, Sierra Leone used to be. Now, the Ghanaian economy is moving. They have an IMF deal. The Chinese have agreed to restructure some of their loans. And then inflation seems to be, and the currency seems to be appreciating, right? It has gone all the way from, I think, maybe something from 11 cedis to 9 point something cedis, right? The same thing is happening in South Africa. So don't believe that in this inflation graph you are seeing there, that's between January and June actually. Now, the reality is that the end of year projection is probably much lower than this, right? Maybe 22, 21 or something, right? Because output will increase, demand for goods will reduce because income will, and then we'll see change in inflation rates. So where will the Naira settle? We've talked about that. There's a lot of, my personal intuition tells me that the Naira will drop some more. And once it, the resistance point is 900. Once it gets to 880, 890, right? It's likely to, and it doesn't stop at 900, it will go to 920 and come back. But I still believe that at the end of the year, we see it coming more towards 820, 800 coming in the other direction, if not lower. But just technically, using technical, what we call, there's fundamental analysis and technical analysis. Technical analysis will tell you now that the thing could be around 685. The EIU thinks to be 800. And fundamental analysis by JP Morgan and shows at about 600. Okay, monetary policy, I think interest rates are likely to increase, the deficit will reduce because income, the government is getting more revenue. But the government is going to have to deploy a lot of this into some things. How do the sectors perform? Or what sectors should you be buying into? I think it makes sense. So I would say avoid a downstream petroleum because subsidies problem are there, infrastructure problems are there for the tank farms. The demand, my older sister runs a petrol station, and yes, she's getting more Naira for every liter. But the point is that fewer people are coming to a petrol station, and that is affecting her. She was telling me yesterday night, she was abusing the old policy, and I said, why? She said, not because of petrol, because the margin of petrol is so thin. Say, but every petrol station has a supermarket, all right? And that she was making more money from her plantain chips and all the other things that people were coming to buy. And some people, the vulcanizer is there paying for all those people saying because fewer cars are coming to the station, people are buying less of this, buying less of that. And so she said, even if they don't sell petrol, but what is affecting them more is the 7-Up, the plantain chips, and all the other things that are selling in the. So that you'll be surprised that the people that have petrol stations make more money from their supermarkets than they make from the petrol, right? I want you to know that. Okay. So I'm sure you didn't link it, right? And even after they buy petrol, it's some money in their pocket, they stop right there to go and buy something in the supermarket. After they bought the petrol at 617, there's nothing left in the pocket to buy anything, so they just run away. So that's what my sister was telling me yesterday. Exchange rate unification, you know what it is. It's a tough one. My travel agent saying that they are seeing a lot more one-way tickets than return tickets, which tells you another story altogether, right? Again, and this is summertime. After the summer, we'll see another thing. Okay. Low interest rates, that affects. So the financial services in the short run gain pain. Long run, everything settles and investments begin to come in. Creditors give us a pass. We have a supplementary budget. There's going to be public-private partnerships. So there's a big upside. There's a lot of benefits for Nigerians. So all I can say, stay the course, take that injection, feel better in 2 or 3 days' time. If you don't take the injection and you take the agbo and all that, maybe it will take you a week before you get over the malaria, or 2 weeks for that matter. Doing nothing doesn't help. Okay? Now, so let us take some sectors and why you should be buying stocks in those sectors. I think yesterday, the global announcement was General Electric. General Electric released their results. General Electric was the iconic company, the only company that survived the Dow from 1928 to recently. But about 2 years ago, General Electric was dropped from the Dow Jones 20 and was replaced by MasterCard. And that was the last of the Titans, right? Now, General Electric announced things, and they restructured their business. You remember the General Electric wanted to lease all our rail lines some time ago and do everything, but it never worked. Now, I'm saying is that some of the brick and mortar businesses that we wrote off before, because of telecommunications and all that, do not think that because of 5G and all of these things that the brick and mortar companies are going to go away. They're going to, so you still have to look at the people that produce goods. So for telcos, we like telco infrastructure, which is, if they are quoted, HSS and we want the cable companies, but telco providers, and so much for streaming, virtual calls, conference calls, and all of that. We are making this broadcast now by virtue of one, the chips in this laptop I'm using, the electricity, the broadband infrastructure, and everything. So by making a call, hundreds and hundreds of people on it. In fact, over 400 at the point, 396 participants right now. Everybody is listening and watching, and we're able to communicate effectively with everybody. So there's a big future in the telco infrastructure as well in telco providers. So we like that. We like to buy it. Not only that, the telcos are having their payment saving banks, they're having the mobile payment systems, and one of the big banks, last week changed their system, and it affected. You could see the entire internet was agog with the fact that one bank, and I won't mention the bank here, changed their internet payments thing and all of that. It took about almost a week before, and many people left that bank and never said they will not go back there again. But I think I remember with that bank, and happily they've done things the right way. We expect broadband subscription to grow at an average rate of 11.54. But having said that, there's what we call the IGDP. I think MTN at the CEO forum raised certain things about the internet, digital economy. So Nigeria's digital economy is growing at a rate compared to the rest of the world much lower. But once the digital economy grows, all other things follow. And we are so far behind, but now, and it requires a certain amount of investment. So I want you to look at the digital economy, because remember, you're not writing checks, you're making digital payments, digital tokens and all that. It's a big, big product. So we like that space. Short run, no question. MTN, Glo, Airtel, Glo, and there's another one called the Nine Mobile. Okay, I can't remember the name. So I'm saying that there's a big future in that business space. The FMCG space, you can see the shelves on this shelves. Well, this picture was taken about a year ago, I think, when there was a lot of money before petrol and all the others. If you take the picture of the shelves today, they may look different from what it is. For some of us, we've not been able to enter the supermarket since they increased the price of petrol. We're going to find the courage to go in there. I don't know what the prices look like, but I know that those shelves are not as stuffed as they are now. But let me, jokes apart, the reality is that there are production challenges, there are price challenges. And I got a call from one of the major carbonated soft drink people yesterday. I don't know, they have not kicked in, or they've kicked in what they call the sugar tax. They kicked that in. No, there's a sin tax on sugar, which, okay, where is about to. Now, those guys say that if that kicks in, it means First of all, they were dealing with Naira redesign. Then they have to deal with this petrol. They have to deal with and now if you add this sugar tax and then there's talk of VAT going from 7.5 to 10%. By the time you add all of this, I'm not sure these shelves, even if the shelves are full, nobody going there to buy anything. So FMCGs are looking at one, cost control, looking at aggregate demand. But I take this with a pinch of salt because there's a review of salaries. Imo State, which is one of the one of the states not known for transparency and governance, has announced a 40,000 naira minimum wage. But when they announced it, some people came out and said that the salary arrears they are owing people is already 11 months. Increasing the wages are totally different thing from paying the arrears. So I want us to bear that in mind. So long run, I think FMCGs to a large extent are tied into the value chain of agric, because maize, sugar, and all these things. So, and very interesting developments. One Oba was on BBC this morning. This village is near somewhere in Akure and all that, and they've actually have a joint venture with somebody in Preston in England making a special chocolates. And this Oba was extremely eloquent, extremely well educated, and all of that. Quite impressive. And it went further because it was something he did just something on the 4th. And his father, he claims the father was the one who planted the first cocoa something in 18 something. And so very interesting development. But I'm trying to show you how people are going from being in a village somewhere in the bush, because the BBC went with motorcycles, and it got to a point where the motorcycles could not continue. They had to go by foot into the thick of the forest. Right? Maybe I wasn't with them. I don't know how many snakes would come out of somewhere. So, but anyway, I'm just trying to tell you the value chain from making cocoa to cocoa paste and all the way. And they are naming the chocolates in that made in that part of near Manchester with the name of the village in Akure, Liberia, this thing near Akure. Right? So I want you to see the context. This development. So medium to long term, I think African Continental Free Trade Agreement will help to produce things, and so that takes care of that. Power. All said, I'm told that our total aggregate power output in Nigeria, if you add all the generators to public power supply, is about maybe 22,000 megawatts, while the official grid is about 4,000 megawatts, which means that the private power is about 5 times. But what Nigeria needs is about 100,000, more than 100,000 megawatts. So there's a big gap. Okay. There's also a correlation between output of power and GDP, right? And also, first of all, power and productivity and output, and so on. So, but the big problem is my nephew runs a solar energy company which does solar across Africa. And he tells me that even in Ghana, you have a possibility of now selling your extra solar power into and getting credit from the grid. That doesn't happen here yet. So if in my office we have solar, even if we have excess, there's no way we could get a credit on it. So the whole power space is good. I think that Nigeria's power supply situation will improve significantly when we deal with the transmission and distribution issues. The distribution issues are very, very capital intensive. I think we can do with at least 3 or 4 times the number of transformers in this country. Metering is a problem, transformers are a problem. So when you go and rent a house now, you are praying that that the transformer that brings power to the works. You are praying that the flood does not go into the transformer and blow it up, right? Then you are praying also that the electric poles. So all those things are outside your control. There's nothing you can do. You just have to deal with it, and you will not know. Some people say, "Well, don't move during the rainy season, or move during the dry season," no, because you don't know the things. People move during the worst time, so you know what all the bottom line is for you. So these are all things that we're seeing. So power supply, I think that we're going to have improvement in power supply. So what does it all mean for your investment? Return on investment so far this year is 27%, but it's going to taper off. It's going to slow down a bit. And if you narrow the stocks that are doing well, the ones that are doing well are doing very well, the ones that are not doing well. But there are some sectoral changes that will take place, especially in the financial services. I think the acting governor made a mistake. He said something about non-performing loans was 40-something%. If non-performing loans are 40-something%, that's not it. So I think probably meant 14%, not 41%. Yeah, or 4-point-something. Yeah, non-performing loans. No, capital adequacy was right? But the non-performing loans, yeah, I think the capital adequacy said was about 11 or something like that. But anyway, but the communique has come out, which would have cleaned it up. So going to the sectors that we think we like telecoms and telecom infrastructure. We like to a large extent part of the FMCGs. We like post-reform power. We are concerned about downstream petroleum, and we think that building materials has a major upside because of the tax for infrastructure swaps and all of that. So those are interesting things. The money markets, we expect interest rates to increase, and that could have a negative impact on equities. The global asset, Nigeria is going to be more connected with the rest of the world. So if the world is moving up, we will increase with them, and if there's a global slowdown, it will affect us. But what has happened in the last week or two is that the Black Sea, the wheat, what do you call it, the wheat, price of wheat, I think, is sharply. And once the price of wheat increases, then the price of bread increases. And if the price of bread increases, then the demand for yams and gari and others increase. And tomatoes is a clear example. I went somewhere again, said, people, they said the demand for, I don't know, there's something called white soup. White soup is salad.
Yeah.
Yes. White soup is the one that has no tomatoes as well. Mm-hmm. Okay. So people are saying that's the big demand. Of course, there's a Caricom, which has no tomatoes as well. So there's a shift. When you go to restaurants, so Caricom, white soup, this, that. So, okay. So that's a different thing. So you're going to be seeing whiter soups as we go along. Global inflation trending downwards because of higher interest rates. The US is going to announce its interest rate announcement today. The jury is out. I don't know what's going to happen. If they do 25, they factor in 25 basis points, but I'm not sure that if they do that, the market will still rally. And US market is rallying quite big. These are our major trading partners here, and these are the growth projections. Oil at $80 a barrel. Saudi Arabia, there was something about Saudi Arabia yesterday that found that they've been given the biggest downgrade in terms of their growth projections. So, but coming back to the wheat and global markets, don't forget, if the Ukraine-Russia war goes into the next winter, right, and because this year we've had the highest temperatures in the world since records were kept in Arizona, different places. We even had a little bit of snow in Kenya. So there's a change in global weather patterns. So if we have very high temperatures, it means that we'll have very low temperatures during the winter. If that happens, then the demand for gas and all these things are going to skyrocket. So the prayer in over 500 days is that something happens between now and the winter. What can happen? I am not sure. But Wagner, the guy who is doing the Wagner group, the mercenaries, as a matter of fact, they committed more resources to Mali in the last few days. These Russian soldiers of fortune, mercenaries. So we don't want, that's the last thing we need around here at this time. So we should be praying for milder weather. My records show that this July has been one of the wettest Julys in the last. No, I didn't see any floods, but definitely it's been quite wet. And the temperatures in Nigeria, at this Lagos where I live, have been much lower than in June. The average temperature I see is about 23 degrees Celsius, when the average temperature normally is about 29. So, and then air conditioning use has dropped, and people are using blankets and cardigans more. Look around. Okay, so what's the outlook? The outlook is that global growth will increase. The Chinese economy will grow by 5.5, Eurozone about 0.8. The UK has hit the high inflation. Global inflation will decelerate gradually to around 7. And most central banks will end the tightening cycle, but they will still do, I think the US will do 0.25 today. The Europeans, the British did 1, and the Europeans will do some more. Crude oil prices, even at it, but the dollar, don't forget, the dollar has fallen sharply. Therefore, even if at $80 a barrel, effectively, it's the same thing as selling it at about, how would I put it, $70 a barrel last quarter. Okay, because the pound was trading during the time of distrust 1.03, today it's about 1.32. So the pound has gained about 30% against the dollar since distrust, and the Ghanaian bond treasurer, Chancellor of the Exchequer. Global crude oil demand will increase by 1.6% to 2023. And these are the various asset classes. We're not going to waste too much time, but I think that the US investment in the US equity markets is quite interesting. Gold should be looking good, precious metals, and the Nigerian real estate market should be looking much better. What are there? Are there risks? There are risks, especially for Nigeria. The risk that people are getting to their tolerance level. So is it possible that people get angry? No, but I don't think we'll go down. I think this administration is likely to be more sensitive to people's thought pain, and therefore they would change things. They would amend things if need be. So we're praying that the cabinet will include, and I think the cabinet should and will include competent people, but to compromise, politicians make promises all along the place, and the political juggling is much more difficult than just putting technocrats in place. So there's the risk that the pressure on income will make people more restless, but also the conversations around how to compensate people. But a lot will depend on the quality and caliber of the cabinet that you have. I think that's, will there be widespread riots? I don't think so in short run, but who knows what will happen. We're still in political season. So one is how to manage the expectations of people. 2 is how to quickly recycle money. 3 is how to meet with your creditors to ensure that you get a good debt restructuring deal. And more than anything, making sure that you can get the oil from the oil wells to exports. Any attempt, if nothing is done about oil theft, I think that, I don't know how many of you watched the movie about the one ship that was carrying refined products that was set ablaze. That's the evidence that was set ablaze. So if the people that were supposed to prosecute the people were the ones that burned the evidence, then it tells you a lot about what's going on. So headline inflation will increase, but for tapering, CBN and the DMO, it's not just CBN, debt management office will have to allow interest rates on treasury bills and others increase. But let's get it clear. The primary issues are done by the debt management office. The secondary issues are what they call them, open market operations are done by the central bank. So those the yield curve has to be aligned. I think after the ministers announced this next month, you will have a supplementary budget, and Nigeria will start engaging its creditors to discuss the way forward. But I'm optimistic that Nigeria knows or should know what to do. International investors are going to be watching cautiously. And one of the rating agencies yesterday extended the outlook as stable. I don't know which of them, S&Ps or Moody's on Nigeria, or I think Fitch. Yesterday, I just saw the headlines, so I can't remember. Forest restrictions are going to be reduced from what Adeshonobi was saying yesterday. We should expect that. So I think we'll confirm to you which of the agencies affirmed or reaffirmed the outlook for Nigeria. I think maybe it was Fitch, I think. So thank you very much. We've short our time, a few minutes, but there we go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure to listen to you. And that's why we have so many questions that pour in at the end of the day. One question I had for you was looking at your, the graph you presented on return on the market, whether it's money market instruments or equities. I mean, for an international investor, that's fantastic. If I can move my money here, I earn 14% on corporate bonds or track the NGX and gain 27%. But for the domestic investor, with all that is going on at the macro level and the filter down effect to households, is there really a positive outlook for investment outcomes, considering the fact that these ROIs cannot rise to a level enough to cushion the effects of all that we're seeing: rising inflation, cost of living, diminished purchasing power, currency devaluation? I mean, if you went to vacation to London last summer versus this summer, you're going to spend at least double the amount, So when do we see the possibility of domestic investors finding some sort of respite?
Okay. Let me, again, I don't know whether you're an accountant, but the reality is that you probably are. You are looking at a short-term view. If the stock price is the present value of future earnings, and if you're looking at 1 year's earnings or 2 years' earnings, maybe you may be right. If you look beyond that and say that if the number of subscribers on MTN, right? No, let's talk about the number of people using 5G because of virtual conferencing, because of streaming, because of games, the number of children that are going to be doing classes on, if that is going to quadruple, then any projection you have of MTN shares, right, is totally, it doesn't work. Let us look at, MTN did an IPO. They did another issue, supplementary issue. And what has happened to the price of MTN shares all that time? So if you look at that and look at the price and look at the EBITDA of MTN, right? It tells you we have not, let me ask you a question. How many things do you use your device? Compare the number of SMS messages you had. Or go to your text 3 years ago and go to your WhatsApp messages you got. That which means that those guys who are sending you WhatsApp messages are using data. And the guys sending you text messages we're not, what is the price of one text message compared to the unbundled price of, right? So, well, I can't even begin to tell you, right, what it is. Look at the number of people that are, the MTNs and all that are bringing in cheap smartphones. Right? What's the average price of a phone? You talked about it if you went to England last year. What kind of devices do you have? Why is that iPhone with this high price point is having more sales than the other phones? Right? So I take a much more long-term view about investment, because investment decisions, the fact that the first rule of the thumb is that if you like the product as an individual, if you use Yves Saint Laurent glasses, then you buy Yves Saint Laurent stock because you know, right? And I look at things from a big picture example. I think that the Nigerian investor is not going to be any different from the international investor, and that something will happen in terms of bringing the income levels to the height or where the purchasing power of Nigerians will increase. So I don't believe that the picture is as dire. Again, you've done a short-run analysis that yes, everything, tomatoes, this, blah, 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 good. But what you have not done is that because the price of tomatoes has increased, how many people are going to be investing in tomato paste, right? How many people are going to be investing, right? This is what we had somebody from the building material business just visiting us this morning here, and asking for certain things. What were they asking for? They're asking, what is the projection for growth in this country 2 years from today? So, when we build this modern refinery, which we are commissioning in Nigeria now, we should not think that the people internationally are going to sleep and allow some African country come and they too are investing in some refinery, but they are investing with a view that the petrol stations in all over the world are not going to be selling petrol mainly. You know what they're going to be doing with the petrol stations? They are going to be charging your electric vehicle battery. Do you know that, for example? I do know Lagos State has signed a contract with the Rockefeller Foundation people, right? To change all the BRT buses to electric vehicle buses in the next 2 years. Right? So, right? Driverless cars, and there are so many things. So I believe that these challenges will present great opportunities, and that the international investor who can move his money in, out, will be looking for the best return. Because if I have to pay to stay in the Radisson Blu now for a night is 185,000 naira. Okay. What if I have an Airbnb, right? So all these service flats, people are now saying that it makes no sense to let out service flats Airbnb for 2 weeks, 3 weeks at 100,000, 200,000 a night, 100,000 a night for 1 week, right? If you have it for only 1 or 2 weeks a month, you are getting much more than if you are leasing taking rent from somebody, right? So, and that is putting pressure on the hotels. You say, okay, if you don't give a discount, Airbnb are there and all sorts of shortlet arrangements. So it's changing. The exchange rates, yes. If you look at the channels news every night, one of the big advertisements, one hospital in Ikeja called it the Dorchester Hospital or something. Yeah, they're advertising every time. To advertise 10 o'clock news is very expensive, but they've been advertising because exchange rate makes medical tourism extremely expensive. That's why you have to get the visa, then you have to buy the ticket, then you have to buy the foreign exchange. For example, £100 now equals 120,000 naira. So if you catch that taxi from Heathrow Airport to downtown, right? It's 120,000. I don't care what Uber you use to go from Victoria Island to Ikeja Airport. There's no way they are paying more than 15 or 20,000 naira from anywhere in Lagos. While when you get to London, you pay 120,000 naira for a
Exactly.
taxi. So does it make sense to go to London? No.
You stay at
Except
home.
you don't stay at home. You can go to Nairobi or go to Jos if you're not kidnapped.
What's to Ghana? Okay, let me ask. I have a few questions here. So Abel Udi, he has about 3 questions. I'm going to try to combine everything. So the first one is with NNPC's allocation of crude oil for local refining. If this allocation is sold to local refiners in Naira without the attendant cost of shipping and shipping out and then shipping refined products back, will the country be able to hedge against FX fluctuation risks in fuel pricing? And the follow-up question to that is, why is energy subsidy in the case of Nigeria with large reserves an anomaly when the EU and the US and the likes, through their farm bill, subsidize food where they have a comparative advantage? And lastly, from Abel, also asking if fiscal and monetary policy alone can solve our inflation and FX challenges without a deliberate attempt to be an active player in the global production value chain.
Okay, let me start with the easy one, which is the last one. Fiscal and monetary policy solve inflation. Inflation and whatever it is, inflation and fiscal deficit, these are symptoms of a fundamental problem. If your economy is growing, growth is the main thing. If it's growing, then output is growing, you are not likely to be seeing inflation. So the policy is not meant to solve inflation. The policies are supposed to ensure that we grow faster. And when we grow faster and our GDP is higher, divided by a number of people, everybody is happy. So it is when something goes wrong that you have inflation, and there's something goes wrong that you have. So let's stop looking at the symptoms. Let's look at the fundamental issue. Are we going to get growth? Right? So yes, fiscal policy is to ensure that you use taxes and revenues to trigger growth. Right? The interest rate is supposed to allow you mobilize savings and ensure that there's investment that leads to growth. So it is growth. So if you bring 100 Nigerians in a room and ask them to write the problem with Nigeria, I can assure not more than 1 or 2 of these 100 people will mention growth. Everybody will talk about electricity, everybody will talk about water, everybody will talk about inflation, I can bet you none of them will talk about growth, because you do not see the connection between GDP growth and all of these problems. If the economy is really growing, then most of these problems will not be, right? Don't forget, that there was a time that Nigeria achieved as high as maybe 10 or 11% growth, one of those few years back. So please, let's know that. Secondly, you talked about subsidies. Subsidies are reverse taxes, right? And I've told you that even in Europe, when there was a recession, they reduced taxes. That means they increased subsidy. But what are you subsidizing? If I'm subsidizing agriculture, right, food, right, then it's good. The Nigerian Cocoa Association announced 2 days ago, I think, to say that Nigeria should set up a board to regulate something anyway. In any case, what they wanted is for the Nigerian government to do something about shifting subsidies from petrol consumption into education and other things, right? So nobody says subsidies are bad, but subsidies we used, and I don't understand, one of the candidates, I think Labour Party candidate said, we're going to subsidize production rather than subsidize consumption. I don't know what that means, but it's just another soundbite, political soundbite. But it's important to know that you can't subsidize. If I give you scholarships or grants, that's subsidy. Or is it better to subsidize people going to school than to subsidize people buying fuel in their cars to go to a bar. The answers, the question answers itself. Makes most sense to do that. Right? Now, the first question, which is very interesting, a complete misunderstanding. We produce 1.5 million barrels at times a day, 1.2, or whatever we produce, 450,000 barrels are given to the traders, what they call the swap arrangements. Take 450,000 barrels, refine it for us, and bring it back to us. Right? If we now give those 450,000 barrels to Dangote instead of giving it to Vitol or Trafigura, Dangote will take the 450,000 barrels, refine it, and sell it to us and in Ghana. It does not increase or reduce our foreign exchange, because the 450,000 barrels that we are giving to Dangote would have earned us dollars in the first place, right? So the oil that the refined products that are coming into Nigeria are not paid for in dollars. It is transportation cost. What we have paid, we've used our oil, which is dollars, to pay for it, and it's refined and brought back to us. So it is all the other attendant costs that add up. The landed cost of the liter in dollars converted at a particular exchange rate to give us the price. It is that price that we're buying 198 naira a dollar or a liter, now 617, because NNPC that did all of these things had a cost, right? And it's not by coincidence that 2 days ago, I think 3 days ago, NNPC said they remitted 123 billion naira to the Federation account, right? Why did they do that? Because the under recovery has reduced, and that's why the federal and state governments had 1.9 trillion naira in June, as against 620 billion naira in May. So, not fair. Oil that is refined and brought back to Nigeria is not a foreign exchange cost. It's not a foreign exchange cost. And so, therefore, whether it's Dangote, whatever it is, the fact that you are refining oil in Nigeria will not save you that much foreign exchange. It will guarantee you supply, and it will also, if it's priced adequately, the extra demand for petrol, which was there, is not going to do anything. So it doesn't alter your exchange rate or alter anything. It only increases the amount of government revenue you get because they are paying less subsidy. That's all. Thank you. Next question, please.
We can take, okay, this is the last one we can take from
Yes.
Mr. Ogunshola. He says, why is really no one talking about the elimination of speculators from our foreign exchange market? I think this is a very important element that needs to be given attention to fight depreciation of our currency. And a related question from Mr. Taiwo Atunwa is that, isn't there a risk that a total removal of forex restrictions could allow a continuous upward push of the exchange rate by sellers, especially since supply of FX has yet to improve?
Okay. Let me correct one total misunderstanding. There are nothing called speculators. You see, if I go to the stock market, in those days, people wear red, that red jacket. I don't know what you call them. There are those who are brokers and those who are jobbers and all that. Other people wear blue. In the Chicago Board of Trade, they have different, so they know where the different pits. If you're a cocoa trader, you wear a particular color. You're a gold trader. There's nothing called speculators. Speculators lose money as much as they make money. Let me give you an example. If you think that the football match between Manchester United and Man City, which has been scheduled for September something, and you go and buy the tickets well in advance and hold all of them, hoping on that day that there'll be a major boom, right? And therefore, you budget for £50, and then you wait there and sell the tickets. They call them scalpers. You go there and wait for them to, and you can now sell it for 200 pounds. Then, just telling you that was the plan, and I bought it 3 months ago. Then, unfortunately, the Queen dies about 2 weeks or 3 weeks before then. And then the burial is put on that day. Therefore, the march has been moved from that day to another day. Meanwhile, I've bought my tickets waiting for that day to sell. But little did I know that the Queen would pass on and that the burial was set for that day. And therefore, that march has probably been cancelled and postponed to some other time. The tickets are gone. So that man would have, and he spent almost £200,000 buying the tickets in advance, all gone. So the point I'm trying to make, that speculators have a chance, probability of losing just as much as they make a killing. Another example, in Nigeria many years ago, I had a customer who specialized in printing ballot papers. So there was no INEC at that time, it was called, I can't remember what it was called. INEC, before INEC, there was FEDECO or something like that or something. Anyway, so the guy, his cousin was working in this, and so they gave him a contract to print ballot papers, and everything was, and his banker lent him money, plenty of money, when money was money. Then all of a sudden, Babangida was head of state. He just announced that option A4, no more ballot papers. Everybody queue up behind your candidate, right? And that man went bankrupt, and I think he died out of. Well, what was he? He was a speculator, speculating on making money from manufacturing ballot papers. He didn't know that there was another plan, right? So I would not bother myself saying how to eliminate speculation. There's no, every market, the reason why there's speculation is because people see an opportunity for extra demand. The moment we hear that petrol price is going to increase, all of a sudden there'll be queues. The moment the queues appear, the jerry can people appear. But the moment the price, they announce the correction, the jerry cans disappear and everything. So are those people speculators? Where did they buy the jerry cans from overnight? Or the jerry cans are there, they just bring it out. That's what it is. So as an economist, I know that markets are efficient. So anytime I see those things, those are just signs of markets. It's not because these people are evil, go and arrest them, go and say, how do we throw speculators out of the market? No, speculators make the market efficient, right? So they buy and sell, they see gaps, right? Taking advantage of gaps, market gaps, is not a bad thing, right? If you want to go and queue and wait for 2 hours, and if I can buy the petrol for 100 naira per liter more, and I can go where I'm going, that man who has sold it to me, and I had actually gone to queue and wait. So he's selling his time to me. So I don't see them as bad people, right? I think that once the supply and demand are in equilibrium, there'll be no speculator, not one soul. How many people have you seen with jerry can on just hanging around the petrol station since the price went up to 617? Nothing. They're not there. If tomorrow there's a shortage, I can bet you within an hour, there'll be jerry cans all over the place. Yesterday night, I was coming back from Channels. There was one accident on the way. And this was 10 to 11 o'clock last night. Within 30 minutes, all the street traders in Lagos were there at Berger at night. Where did they come from? And they were selling all sorts of things at 11 o'clock at night yesterday night. So that's what. So please, let's disabuse them. There are no speculators have a chance to make money as much as they lose money. Speculators help clear the market, but they are showing the effective and true price of commodities. And therefore, the exchange, once there's enough supply for exchange, these same speculators and bookies and all that will disappear. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, we can't take any more questions. We've overshot our time. Maybe we should start doing 2 hours instead of 1 hour, because the engagement from people is so infectious, but we thank God. Thank you once again, sir. I'll hand over to my colleague George for the closing remarks.
Okay, thank you so much, Doyin, and hold on 1 minute. Okay, we are grateful for today, and want to thank God for the information made available to us from our speaker. They are easy for us to comprehend. They help us to navigate what we need to do going forward. Yeah, there are a lot going on, but the key thing is that there's no magic bullet. No pain, no gain. We are just passing through a process. The crucible will lead to a better end. I just want us to be hopeful, like our speaker has given us that perspective. On this note, I would like to appreciate our great audience of inestimable value. Your participation and activeness in keeping this program going is not taken for granted. Your deluge of questions, all the effort you have thrown into this program for us to be able to host it in the way we do has helped us to shape and reshape these editions in a manner that each passing edition is an improvement on the past. We thank you so much, and we pray that God will continue to bless you and sustain you. We want to say of our Group Managing Director, Mr. Ade Baraimo, who has always availed us his commitment, his interest, his finances to keep this program going. I want to remark that a lot goes into this making of this program, and he is the architect behind it all. And on this, we want to say heartily that we appreciate you warmly. We appreciate you. We see what you do and what you give to us and give to humanity, to mankind. And because this knowledge, you cannot buy it in the market. As people will say, knowledge is power. Thank you so much for keeping this program going. To our speaker, who I will always say, and today is also spot on, he has delivered this webinar, this lecture professorially. His wealth of erudition, his great knowledge of vast events of the world is something else, I would say. We want to thank you very much, sir, for giving us access into your fountain of knowledge by way of coming to speak in this webinar, ensuring that we are well guided in taking decisions, reflecting on the past, on the present, and projecting into the future. And those information are really guidance. They are really there to help us, and the public has been benefiting from it. And to think of it that you have been traveling all along, both day and night, to ensure that you participate in a program like this is something we really value, and we thank you so much for this. God bless you, sir. And on this note, ladies and gentlemen, we want to draw the curtain. We want to bring this program to a close. Yes, we have spent time, but it's time worth our while, because what we have gotten here, the value here, is certainly going to help our future. We look forward to meeting you or seeing you in our next edition that is sure to come up again by the grace of God, September this year. Thank you so much for being with us, and have a great day ahead. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.